Hi, I'm March from StrataGames, and today we are playing some more White Weenie, and specifically we're going to be trying out Elite Interceptor. I know this card's been out for a couple weeks, and it's taken me a little while to actually get around to testing it in White Weenie, but there were a ton of new cards from Strixhaven that looked pretty interesting, and so I had several other decks I wanted to try first, but here we are. So I'm not exactly sure how this card is going to be. I think it's going to be worse than Inspectors, because you have to, if the Interceptor dies or gets bounced back to your hand or anything like that, before you're able to cast its Rejoinder, you don't get to have that still around like a clue. I've heard good things and bad things from the card from people who have played it, so we're going to try it out, see it for ourselves. In order to test it, I'm playing 4 in here, but I think with all the Inspectors and stuff, if it is worse than Inspectors, but you still wanted to play it, I think we'd only be playing like 2 or something like that. For now, I replaced 2 Novice Inspectors, 1 of Lunarch Veteran, and 1 Militia Bugler to try it out, and so we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, this is pretty much my stock list for White Weenie. Battle Screeches, Leonardo, Militia Bugler, Core Skyfisher, Rafine's Informant, Veteran, bunch of Inspectors. We still have a Steadfast Unicorn, 3 Prismatic Strands, 2 Guardian's Pledge, 4 Thraben Charm, 2 Idyllic Range, and 18 Plains. Sideboard, couple Hollow, Martyr of Sands, that is, Journey to Nowhere, Standard Bearer, Holy Light, and Dust to Dust. So, let's take this for League and see how the Inspector does, or the Interceptor, rather, does for us. Good afternoon, how's it going? How we doing today? Splendid, how about yourself? I'm doing pretty well. Been having a productive week so far. Yesterday I was putting together more Pauper decks. I just have been acquiring tons and tons of Pauper cards from bulk bins. I bought a collection from another guy and lots of different things. And so I had all these cards, and so I was able to put together 5 new decks. Some of which are going to be fun to play, but also some of which are mostly for content, if it's a deck that I don't actually play that much. But yeah, trying to build, theoretically every Pauper deck in the format, but when you get into, I need 1,700 copies of Lorien Revealed, it's kind of tough. Ready for this weekend? Yes, I am. We have SCG Cincinnati coming up for everybody else who's not aware necessarily. And yeah, it's going to be pretty sweet. We have a 1K for Pauper on Saturday, which is the main Pauper event that's happening. And other than that, plenty of other Pauper events throughout the weekend, but I'm pretty excited. Thanks to Card Market for sponsoring this video. I've written a comprehensive guide on how to play White Weenie in Pauper, including my ideal stock list, over 30 sideboard matchups, and a sideboard cheat sheet, which gives you a very easy snapshot view and what to sideboard for every single matchup. I also have guides for Black Sack and Esper Affinity. Each guide is only $15, and if you buy one, you will get all future updates that I ever make to that guide for free. I also offer coaching, so if you're interested in upping your Pauper game for any of the decks that I'm very proficient in, or if you're interested in having me play your deck in a future video, you can do a deck donation, which is the only way you'll ever see me playing Cycle Storm or Flickertron. If you need some, check out my Max Field. I have a bunch of cards. I am putting together a list of cards that I need to finish out some decks. The 5 decks that I built yesterday, most every single one of them I'm missing like a couple of cards for. So I'll probably be reaching out to some people to trade or, buy some of those. 15 Lorien Revealed, 20 Weather the Storm, exactly. This hand is a little unexciting with just a bunch of 1/1s, but we have so many ways to spend our mana with all the clues and Rejoinder that I don't mind a bunch of lands here. We are going to start with an Inspector in case we get a Skyfisher or something like that. But yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I have 70 of the 75 cards I need, but I'm missing 3 Relics of Progenitus because I have those in all the other decks, and a couple Pyroblasts or whatever because I have those in other decks, and it's a real pain. And of course, I usually shift them around, but I like to have each deck fully complete so that I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we could just crack a clue, or I could just play 2 more 1/1s here, or 1/2s rather. I think we'd probably just play these. It gets around counter spells and also is more aggressive. They get to flip Delver, but actually Rejoinder could be decent if they left this back to block. I could just tap it down. I don't know if they're going to do that, but they do Brainstorm, so they're definitely going to flip it. With our powers combined, exactly. Thought Scour, they are going to swing. And Patch will be deployed shortly. Okay, hopefully that doesn't interact or interrupt us much. Swing for 3. I don't care to tap or untap anything here, so I'll just crack a clue. I'll do it now because if I get a 1-drop, I'd like to use it, but we did not. Let's add Brimaz to Pauper, it'll be fine. I mean, I'd be a fan because White Weenie would get a lot better. I think Brimaz might be a little strong. Mental Note, a Deep Analysis. Mental Note again in the upkeep is interesting. They do hit enough spells for a Terror, and we will see that. Well, I guess I just have to play some guys here and block. We have enough toughness that they can't really attack in with the Terror very beneficially. We get a Rafine's Informant, but I can't attack either. Obviously, I could have cast Rejoinder on this for 4 mana to get him for 3 damage. That does not sound good enough. Can't wait for the day when White Weenie is just 10 playsets of Thraben Inspector functional copies. Yeah, we're getting there. We had just one for, what, like 8 years, 9 years, and then we got Novice Inspector a couple years ago, and then already another one. So, yeah, we'll get there eventually. It'll be a good time, I'm sure. Thought Scour us. Okay, well, they milled a Lunarch Veteran, so that's some value for us. They do swing with everything. I mean, I can block this with all of these, and I lose a Bugler and the Interceptor, which would be a card, in order to kill this. Part of me wants to just chump with a Veteran, but they might play 1 or 2 more Serpents, in which case we're going to have to not chump and actually trade at some point. Actually, I don't have to chump with the Interceptor. I can trade with all of these, and I still would keep... I'm not expecting a Vapor Snag or a Boomerang. I play Vapor Snag in my list, but usually other players don't. Hopefully that's the case here. So yeah, they can take out Bugler and then either Interceptor or an Inspector or a Veteran. I assume replacing 2 Novice Inspectors with Elite Interceptor 3/4 is just to increase your chances to see it for testing. Correct. I anticipate it being worse than Inspectors, so if I was starting with the list that I think would be ideal, assuming Interceptor is good enough to keep in, it would be 2 Interceptors, but... yes, I'm trying to make sure we actually see it for testing. Okay, so that wasn't terrible. They killed the Veteran, and... wait, they messed up enormously, and they shame concede. They accidentally dealt 3 damage to Lunarch Veteran. No, 2 damage to Lunarch Veteran, 2 to a Bugler, and 1 to an Inspector, instead of killing the Bugler and killing an Inspector or killing a Veteran or something. And then they shame concede. I mean, they were in an okay spot, but, okay. Oh... they shame concede the entire match? That's crazy. Okay, well, hopefully their mental psyche's okay after that. Stream idea, make Andrew play Turbo Fog in Pauper. I mean, I don't think that would take too much convincing. Andrew's already a big Turbo Fog fan. Yeah, I mean, it'd just be if he wants to play some Pauper. I'm saving up, so March has to play Cyclostorm just like his intro. Hey, you can make it happen whenever you want. Whenever you can save up that $20, you know, it's tough to find nowadays. I have played Turbo Fog in a video from a deck donation. I have not played Cycle Storm, but you know, it could be interesting. The shame is strong. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Like, they were in I mean, I think it was a pretty balanced spot for both of us, but they were obviously not losing, and shame conceding the whole match is crazy. Okay, Lost on Kato often plays Mardu Synth, but could be anything. Definitely going to keep with some Interceptors here. They have Foot Headquarters, which is just a game life land. Grim Bauble. Interceptor looking really bad here. We don't get to keep our card around. And then Basilica. Now I don't want to play another one, because they could just pick this up and pick it off again, and I still wouldn't draw my card. Dude. I knew this card was going to suck. Add Carnage Tyrant to Pauper. It's not a complex card, only has like 5 words of text. Yep, that's definitely the only factor for cards in Pauper, is complexity. Refurb and pass. Planes. I mean, I'm going to play Interceptor, and we're going to immediately Rejoinder, just so that I don't lose my card, I guess. Skyfisher picks up Bauble, picks off our Interceptor. Looks like it's just Orzhov. We'll play Interceptor. Not Interceptor. Now, these names are too close. They need to not do this, because now I keep getting them confused already. Glinthawk. They're going to kill the Inspector with the Bauble, I assume. This is pretty annoying. We are going to Thraben Charm to kill, I guess, the Refurb, because we can hold off everything else with Prismatic Strands for multiple turns. Plus, they can pick it up, obviously. For value, there's an Inspector. Modern MTG design insists complexity increases with rarity, so obviously simple cards should have lower rarities. Oh, yes. 100%. We have an Inspector, and just pass with Strands, or I can Thraben Charm and Clue. And of course, we're getting all of our X2s. The deck has quite a few X3s, but I'm not getting any of those. Let's 3-man charm to kill a Glint Hawk. I mean, I guess they're almost out of cards. Kind of. Crack a Clue. Useless Guardian's Pledge. Man, I'm already sick of this card. If I play it, I have to crack this right away unless I want a chance losing it again. And then I can't hold up Strands. Which I guess is fine. And the tapping and untapping doesn't even do anything here. Alright, we do get to still hold up Strands, I guess, because we drew Plains, but I also probably would have preferred not to draw Plains. Crack a Clue. Oh, look. I guess it's a Limbus, not a Skyfisher. Not yet, anyway. Headquarters. They have Orokusaki for the Glint Hawk. Well, I can prevent... I guess it's only 3 damage either way, so I might as well prevent them from drawing a card here. I could flash it back right away, but let's... Well, I maybe should, because I'm about to lose this guy. I think this matchup's already... is, like, mostly fine for us, but it's really bad when all we draw is one creature a turn that can get killed by Grim Bauble every turn. Plains. Oh my god. Let's untap this. Woo. Skyfisher. And I don't want to bounce this. I guess I do want to bounce this. I need more card draw, otherwise we're going to lose. So, I mean, we're probably already going to lose, but cast down, what is that, 9? Alright, we're going to die. That was just terrible. We get some Dust to Dusts. That's about it. Strands is not amazing. I mean, I absolutely hated the Interceptor here. It felt so bad. Let's cut a couple of those. Alright, we have 1 land. No. This one doesn't look very good. 2 lands, I would have kept it. Oh my gosh, this hand's terrible. Okay, we'll keep this. Get rid of... I really want to get rid of the Interceptor to teach it a lesson, but the Unicorn's a lot less good in this position. Let's play Inspector. So I could play Interceptor and then Leonardo to get in for 1 extra damage. But I legitimately think that in case they bobble again, I'd rather play the Inspector so I can keep my clue around. So we're going to do that. There's the bobble. And a Basilica. Veteran, Interceptor, swing for 3. They have a Skyfisher. No Swamp. Ooh, look at that. Look at this power. I can now tap this down, get in for 2 that I wouldn't have otherwise. Ooh, I mean, we're hitting pretty hard here. There was a risk we would lose the card advantage from the Interceptor if they had a Swamp, but I guess we're doing all right. Vault, Anchovy, and Banana Pizza to destroy the Leonardo. That's pretty good. I mean, it's expensive for that, but Idyllic Range. Counter here, so it doesn't die to a bauble. Crack a Clue. And we will destroy this. Attack for 4. 2 whole extra damage, I should run 5. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Not the best pizza in the format, even. Embarrassing. They should be playing the pizza combo deck instead. Plains. We'll crack a Clue. Amazing. Get back Veteran. Swing for 2. And because we drew so many lands there, I feel like we're just gonna barely fall short. Hi, if I don't own Dust to Dust, what would you suggest to put in the sideboard against Affinity? I would suggest Revoke Existence as the primary substitute. It's 1 less mana, you only get to exile 1 artifact, but it's also got some extra utility against enchantment decks, and it being cheaper and only having to hit 1 thing is actually pretty good sometimes, because you can take... Like, Dust to Dust is amazing, of course, but you have to wait until turn 3 to take 2 artifacts at the earliest, whereas Revoke Existence can take their very first land if you're on the play. So, yeah, so it's not strictly worse, although obviously if you could have Dust to Dust, that's better. But yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah. So I would probably just play like 4 of those. They have the Arms of Hadar, of course. They already used 1, so I thought maybe we'd be able to survive, but I guess not. Shadeblade subscribed for 6 months. Thanks so much for that, Shadeblade. Appreciate it. For 6 months in advance. Oh. I don't know how to read. I really appreciate that. Raven's Crime. They have a combat trick here? Or just sacrifice? Okay. Well, if we hadn't drawn 9 planes, I think we'd have a better shot at this, winning this game. They can destroy the Interceptor, pick it back up. No, they go for the Limbus. Yeah, these draws were just absolutely terrible. Okay, we're not winning that one. What a great match. Well, I can tell you already, I'm not feeling the Interceptors. It's only been 3 games. Ads are annoying, and advance payment is a discount. Oh, and support your content creators or whatever. Yeah, I appreciate it. I understand all of that. But I'm glad you're here. And now you have the little Hedron. I hope the Hedron serves you well. It's going to cycle through a bunch of background colors each month. All right, here's another round. Decent hand. I'm all going to 5. Who's better at drawing lands, you or Rob Alexander? Rob Alexander's pretty good, but he's got some stiff competition, that's for sure. I don't know. I'm pretty good at it. So I think I might have to give it to me. But maybe that's just a lack of humility. Wellspring, looks like gardens. Traditional gardens, probably. Swing for 1. Informant. I think I just get rid of the Battle Screech. I get to flash it back 1 turn early. But obviously I lose out on the extra birds. But I feel like against an opponent who's going to be building towards a Crypt Rats, the earlier the better. Spell Bomb. Well, that makes that seem like a bad choice. Well, we'll swing for 4. I'll make it 1. I'll just go for a Bugler. Inspector or Informant. I'll go for the Inspector. Informant is more damage, but it's actually less card advantage, which is, I think, what I want here. And it's the same amount of toughness, so it dies just as easily to Crypt Rats or Defile or anything like that. Shambling Ghast. Cast down the Bugler. Pledge. Okay, Pledge could mean that I just want to play all my 1-drops here. They're going to trade for Informant. It's less mana efficient. I think it's not going to be big enough. It's not going to be lethal or anything, so I think I'm setting up... I accidentally passed through that and did not grab the Veteran, so I should have a Veteran in hand. Oops. It was all this auto-yielding that went through it too fast for me. My mistake. They bargain away the Wellspring, play a Lembas. Yeah, so I'm going to crack a Clue, Skyfisher, a Plains, so that we can set up for a big Guardian's Pledge next turn. Hoping for no Crypt Rats. Although, unless they have Death Touch, they wouldn't be able to kill our 3 toughness guys. Cycle a Troll. Shambling Ghast. I don't love them leaving up a bunch of mana. That could be removal. It could be like a Fog, theoretically. I mean, I'm playing a Grange. Probably on Skyfisher to make it harder if they do Crypt Rats. They're going to Defile it in response, which is -4. I'm going to assume there's no Fog, because these decks don't usually play that main deck. So Guardian's Pledge will actually save this Skyfisher. So I'm going to do that. So now they know it's coming for blocks and stuff, but I'm keeping my Skyfisher alive and just hitting for a lot. They still block Inspector, which means they have a cast down or something for Bugler, I assume. Snuff out, yep. And crack Lembas. Okay. They still can't kill the Skyfisher with this, so they just make a treasure. They go to 7, 2 cards in hand. I could play double Interceptor for more aggression. In fact, that's lethal damage. If they get a wipe, they get to kill both of these, though. That's pretty bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we're going to save it for some rebuilding if they do get the ability to board wipe. Defile the Skyfisher. Yeah, I can't do anything about that now. Which makes it look like I would have wanted to play the Interceptor. I don't really care about tapping and untapping in this matchup almost at all, so I'm actually going to play this because I just want to draw right away. In case we get like a Leonardo or something, I'm doing this pre-combat. Okay, we didn't. So swing for 3. I think I will play 2 more Inspectors. It's quite a bit worse if they do Crypt Rats us, which I'm assuming they don't have because they would have used it. So I'm just hoping they don't. And it's better if they get 1 removal spell or a Lembas or something that keeps them alive. It's better to have the more damage. Alright, so we win that game. That's nice. And we don't have a lot to bring in here. Like Dust to Dust hits, Lembas, Wellspring, Spellbomb, Campfire. But Traditional Gardens doesn't run anywhere near as many artifacts as like a Food Gardens, Food Pest. Don't need Holy Light or Standard Bearer. Journey is okay. Is there anything bad? I mean, Prismatic Strands can still block Crypt Rats, so it's not terrible. Everything else feels fine. I think I don't sideboard. Yeah, let's just leave it as is. Yeah, this hand's okay. Colony Garden. So the life gain from Lunak Veteran's pretty irrelevant, so I probably want to actually just keep that to pitch to an Informant. So let's just play Interceptor. If they kill this right away with the Tithing Blade, I'll lose my card, but whatever. That's always the case, and it's not that high a priority target for them to kill. I assume they'll block and sack, so let's just make them do that. Informant, discard the Veteran. And next turn, if I want, I can do the Battle Screech, but this way, if they have like a Spell Bomb, they don't get the better creature. Defile for the Informant is unfortunate. Limbus. So if I draw a 1-drop, I could still Battle Screech this turn. But I might just want to not Battle Screech, to be honest. So it's less aggressive to do this, but I'm going to bring out the Veteran to get our value, but also because I don't necessarily want to discard a Plains with an Informant. I'd rather wait until we get like another Veteran or something else. Tithing Blade, that can take our Phantom. Don't care too much about that. Here, we Battle Screech and they Drown in Sorrow. I lose my Rejoinder plus everything else. It's not great. I kind of think I just Rejoinder here. If they have a kill spell to make me lose my card draw, that's fine. It's still just a 1-for-1, and they're using a removal spell on my 1-2. I'm doing this pre-combat again because I could get a Leonardo or something, and the untapping for Vigilance is irrelevant. They're going to draw to see if they find a Snuff Out, which they don't. We get another Battle Screech. Fiend's Informant, discarded Battle Screech no longer lets me flash it back immediately. Thraben Charm doesn't matter. So I think we're gonna Informant. I don't even know if I want to discard a Battle Screech, to be honest. I think I might just do a land here. 5th land isn't bad because it lets me Screech plus like a 1-drop, but I think I want to take the Battle Screeches pretty slow because they're gonna like probably have a board wipe for them. So I could like Unicorn and buff. I don't love that. I think we're just gonna swing, but I am gonna keep Screeches for now. Well, Informant, Battle Screech, but then everything gets wiped by a Tyrannosaur. That's just so bad. I kind of feel like this isn't... It's not that much pressure, but if I commit an Informant, it's worse. I mean, I think this is... We gotta play the long game here. I don't anticipate just, like, running every creature out that I draw is going to win us the game, so... And there's the Drown in Sorrow. I can exile a Viscerator's Insight, that doesn't matter. Yeah, so we did just enough to force them to do Drown in Sorrow. Viscerator's Insight, a map, Shambling Ghast. I could exile double a Viscerator's Insight from their grave. It's probably good enough. Militia Bugler, or I could just Battle Screech with Unicorn. I think we probably go for that. Seeing as they just board wiped, maybe they have another one. I'm expecting them to have 2 or 3, but they will have to have it right away. Crypt Rats, well, they do. Rot Farm. Oh, they did a map onto the Crypt Rats. Luckily, they didn't get a counter, so they wiped the board. Now we'll Bugler, find Informant, play that, discard. These are all really good. I guess it's probably the Battle Screech. Just tough, because discarding it does lose us 2 birds. Maybe it was just the Informant. I don't know. Avenging Hunter. Wouldn't mind another Thraben Charm now to kill that. So I could attack. They block. I Guardian's Pledge. They probably have at least 1 removal spell. Do they have 2 is the question. Or I just Skyfisher, pick up Bugler, replay it, maybe get a 1-drop. Skyfisher flies over, but that's going to be 1 removal spell anyway. I think we Skyfisher here. I guess they could kill the Bugler in response, which would be a little annoying, because we don't have a great card to pick up then. Get an Inspector. Right, plus we have the Battle Screech. I mean, we haven't seen a Prismatic. We probably just have to hope for no Crypt Rats. And go for the Screech, I guess. Spectre again. Exactly. Yeah, if there's another Crypt Rats, we're going to be in trouble. Or Drown in Sorrow, but that's not quite as bad because we get to keep Skyfisher. Bugler, they're scrying for it. Both to the bottom is a good sign. Witch's Cottage is bad. Chances they can draw that are almost 100. Play it. And they have the mana to wipe the board. So I think we lose, unless they wait until our turn and we can Guardian's Pledge in response. Crack a Clue, Grange, Informant, Veteran, I guess. Get that back. Counter on the Informant. But I pretty much have to trade for Avenging Hunter, because otherwise we just die next turn, and then chances they have 1 removal spell are very high. Snuff Out, cast down. Alright, we're dead. Unfortunate. Nothing that would stop this, really. How are you liking Interceptor and Weenie? Seems neat. I'm not, so far. Not liking it. It's already been really bad in just the first couple of matches we've played. Mostly because you play it and it dies right away. To a Grim Bauble, for example, is what we did in match 2. And then you don't get your card, which has been really awkward. So, not a big fan so far. Maybe it's got a couple matches to turn it around, but... part of the reason it took me this long to get around to it was that I didn't think it was actually going to be very good, which I think I said in my little short video about Elite Interceptor. And yeah, but then I heard people starting to ask me about it and say that they thought it was good, and so I was like, I guess I'll give it a try. But it's doing about what I was expecting. Swing for 1. Informant, discard Veteran, pass. Yeah, seems like you were right. It's nice to be right sometimes. Definitely not something that happens all the time. Cast down the Informant, another Battle Screech. If I can get a 1-drop off this Informant, nice. Then I can Battle Screech. And we're gonna hope there's no Drown in Sorrow immediately. Best we can do. I feel like as a 1 or 2 it could work. 4 is just too many. I agree that 4 is too many, but I feel like every time I'm gonna draw it early, I'm gonna be upset with it. But maybe if you draw it just once and it's late, you know, maybe it is okay then. Okay, Grange. I guess we grow the Informant because we don't want it to die to a Drown in Sorrow, though it probably gets cast down or whatever. They're gonna chump block. If I could rejoinder both of these, I might do that, but I don't have the mana quite to do that. Most lists I saw, if they run, did only 2 of. Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning, 2 is what I would be running if I was trying like an ideal list. I was trying 4 just to see, make sure I could draw it, and I've drawn it way too much, so maybe I should have been on 2. But sometimes I play 2 of a card in a deck and then I never see it, and it's like, oh yeah, this video showcasing the new card, I never saw it once, and that always feels bad. Well, we will tap one of these, I guess. I'd like to use this card before this guy dies. That's the other thing. I just feel so pressured to use Rejoinder, not even when it's amazing, but just because, like, it's going to die to something. Some board wipe or something. But here I was probably going to crack a clue or do something anyway, so it's not a big deal. Although I guess they could sacrifice this in response, which means that I would lose my card draw, which might have been a decent idea. Oh, I could Thraben Charm this plant. We're just going to swing. I know they get a block on the 4 power guy, unfortunately. And I can get back Veteran. I just think I already have enough guys committed to the board for their board wipe. They don't have the board wipe yet, though, Lembas. Yeah, you don't want it in the opener. Kind of the same for Battle Screech or Guardian's Pledge. Yeah. I mean, yes and no. Like, Battle Screech, like, neither of those are amazing in the opener because you can't cast them early. But, like, if I don't mind a hand with 4 lands and a Battle Screech and a couple of early creatures because at least I know kind of what I'm building towards. But, yes, it certainly doesn't do that much in the early game. Eviscerator's Insight on top. Crack this. Get another Grange, which is actually really good because we can grow another guy out of range of dying to their thing. So this is 9 damage. I think I just want to Thraben Charm this plant so they can't block the damage. Actually, no. Alright, here's a little value. I can just Interceptor it, tap it down. You know, they're actually doing something this time. And we got a Leonardo. That's pretty good. This is why I put the counter on the Interceptor rather than the Inspector, was in case I get like Leonardo and want to pick up Inspector. Looked like they might have a Snuff out here, but can't do much about that. Try to hit them for 14. They would go to 1. They do go to 1. Then I see no reason to play an Inspector, because I think we have them dead if they don't have a board wipe or something anyway. Although now, Drown in Sorrow doesn't even cut it, because this, and this all survive. Which is why Grange is, like, obviously not as powerful as, like, a Witch's Cottage or certainly a Mystic Sanctuary, but it's still really, really good, because being able to choose what survives, like, certain board wipes is really key. Alright, they defile Leonardo. They defile Informant. Okay, but they're still at 4 with this Lembas. So they block here, they survive, they think, but I'm going to just Thraben Charm to kill the plant. So that'll be lethal. Plus I can Skyfish or a Grange, make it bigger. Alright, we win that match. Okay, so the Inspectors actually did something there. That was the first time we saw them be relevant. I was very worried that I was going to just lose my cards to a Drown in Sorrow or whatever, but the tapping was actually pretty good, I must admit. I guess I'll admit it since you twisted my arm. This hand is terrible. This one's pretty decent. What to get rid of is the question. Everything here looks pretty good. If we're against a deck where the life gain matters, we have 1-drop, 2-drop, Skyfisher into Leonardo or something. That's pretty good. So I can get rid of Strands, but if Strands is needed, that's pretty important. I think we put back Strands and just hope we're not up against something where it's super important. Something blue could be relevant. Interceptor. Life gain's probably less important against blue, though, so I'm going to start with the Interceptor, and then probably Informant the Veteran next turn. If it's like Terror, then, yeah, Strands ban attachment, so it could be Dimir Terror. Strands is pretty good against a Terror deck, for sure. It's not, like, mandatory, but oh, they kept a 1-lander. Alright, that helps. Which means they're going to try to counter anything. Hopefully they don't have Force Spike. Yeah, Informant. I think I just discard Battle Screech here, actually. We want fast game since they're missing a land drop. Although Battle Screech gets Spell Pierced, but still. They don't even have another Mental Note. Alright, they find the land. Good for them. Bandit attachments. So there might be a snacker here. Yup. Okay, so they stumbled just for a turn. But now I get to Veteran, Interceptor, Flashback, Battle Screech, and Leonardo for a ton. Wish this was an Inspector, but that's okay. We're already in a very good spot. Hit him to 13. And next turn I could tap the Snacker, which could be quite relevant. Brainstorm. We have 13 damage on board. So if I cast Rejoinder, they might just have to counterspell it, because otherwise they die. That'd be kind of cool. Oh, they have a Serpent. Okay, fair enough. It might be just mono blue then, with Snackers. Okay, so I think I want to Skyfisher a Plains, then we'll Rejoinder. I could tap the Snacker, then they could block here, take 11. That seems bad, so they'll probably trade with the Leonardo. Is that better than them just chumping the Leonardo? Probably not, because I can tap another thing next turn. Let's just tap the Cryptic Serpent. Interceptor was so bad in the first 2 matches, and now it's trying to prove to me that it can still be good, you know? Maybe it's not terrible. I guess they could still trade here, go to 2, but I think if they go to 2, they're toast. Although if they chump, they're just going to have an extra creature to deal with, so I don't know. Tough spot for them. They do trade with the Informant, but they're also just dead to flyers, so yeah, they can't do anything here. Even if they had like 4 terrors they could play, it just doesn't matter. Alright, Journey to Nowhere is decent. That's about it. Strands is still good. I guess Interceptor seems okay. Still might be too many of them, to be honest. We don't need Unicorn. Interceptor. I guess we'll do a Veteran. What a beautiful mulligan. Strands is good in the matchup. I don't love this, but I think we'll keep it on 6. Get rid of one of these. 7 pieces of gas. Snap keep, exactly. Who needs lands? Just muddling the amount of gas we have. Useless. Mental Note, an Island and a Terror. That's good. Brainstorm. Thought Scour, away Sleep. Lorien. That's 5 spells. I would love a Thraben Charm. I would just use that right away. Fortunately not. Let's Informant. I think more birds is probably better, so we'll get rid of the Strands here. But 2 uses of Strands, and the first one being Unknown can be pretty strong. Ban Attachments for a Snacker. And if they got an Island and a Terror, they could play that. They miss a land drop again. Wow. Brutal. Well, I guess we're gonna just crack a clue, play an Inspector. This would have been a good turn, especially since we drew another to flashback up Battle Screech then. Although we'd miss out on 4 damage, so. Hello there, Ben. How's it going? They got a Brainstorm, trying to find that land drop. Good, glad to hear. Cycle of Lorien. Excuse me. They have a Terror. Interceptors have been a little hit and very miss. That is a good summarization. They've been decent once or twice and very bad most of the time. But small sample size, I suppose. Let's see. We could just Battle Screech, of course. I can't really attack, so I think Battle Screech is probably just the thing to do. It's like a double Skyfisher, but I think I'd rather do the thing that gets Spell Pierced and just cost more mana and all that stuff. So we'll do that and flash it back right away. They could definitely stabilize here. Kind of are. I guess they're still at 7 cards in hand. And missing those land drops haven't hurt too much this time. Tap out for a Murmuring Mystic. Well, Thraben Charm would be, or Journey, because I brought those in, would be very welcome here. Just a Plains. I probably just do another Battle Screech then. Because then it's going to be hard for them to catch up to so many birds. Battle of the Birds, exactly. So we're going to swing. They can trade for one of them, which is probably wise. But I'm still going to have 7, and ideally they're only going to have fewer. A couple. Maybe we could just kill them with birds in a turn or 2. Other attachments, they get a bird, they get their Snacker back tapped. Mono blue with Snacker, that's what it looks like. We've seen no indication of Dimir otherwise, and yeah, they have Sleep of the Dead. We saw Cryptic Serpent, stuff like that. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think it's cool. Brainstorm. And Mental Note. 3 birds. If they have an island and another cantrip, they can make a 4th, maybe? No. 3 is a lot already, though. Guardian's Pledge would be pretty game-winning. Journey would be decent. Prismatic, I already have one of. Not Nick 420, subscribed with Prime for 3 months. Thanks for that, Not Nick. Someday we'll know who you are. Some mono blue lists do run it. Yeah, 1 Contaminated Aquifer for the Lorians. Yeah, that makes sense. Probably crack a clue, because I could still hit a Leonardo or a Guardian's Pledge, which would pretty much win the game. Actually, it would just win the game, right? Because 4 unblocked birds. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay, we got the Journey. I haven't played a land, so I can Skyfisher a land, Journey. That is good. At least I can stop dealing with the Murmuring Mystic. I think we still attack, especially since the birds are going to stop. Like, it's worse if we get a Guardian's Pledge later, but... Oh, I could Strands to keep our birds alive. That actually is probably worthwhile, right? 3 more birds. They go to 8 here. I think so. Plus I have a Strands in hand. Let's do that. Keep our 3 birds alive. Skyfisher, Plains, Journey the Mystic. Yeah, I think that was perfect. Put Snacker in my Naya Gates list. Not gonna lie, felt pretty awesome. Yeah, it does look pretty good in that list. Looks like Naya Gates got a huge upgrade with Strixhaven. I agree. Hey, we won the match. Alright, that was pretty cool. That one was actually a deserved victory over the first mono blue terror we played against. Yeah, Naya Gates, the Pursue the Past. I definitely saw as a card that was going to be decent in the format, but I didn't quite realize how good it was going to be, I suppose. Because I was thinking it's, you know, it's only 1 mana cheaper on the front side than a, like a Laughing Mad or whatever the other version of it is. I think I have it right here. Electric Revelation, that's the card. Which is 3 mana, discard, draw 2, flashback for 4 at instant speed. So I was like, Pursue the Past being just 1 mana cheaper doesn't seem that much better, especially since it's 2 colors. But of course you gain 2 life, which is relevant. And also, 1 turn sooner is a turn 2 Snacker, which we know is super powerful in the format, whereas turn 3 is a little bit not as quick. So yeah, that card seems pretty good. Alright, round 5 here. Been a quick league so far. And this hand looks great. Some 1-drops, some 2-drops. Against, is it Control, maybe? Or could be Jeskai. Didn't realize you were at 3-1 already. Yeah, we only started an hour ago. But our opponent shame conceded in game 1, match 1. And they conceded the whole match. And then we lost pretty quickly, terribly in round 2. So those were both like 20 minutes for the whole thing, I think, maybe. Alright, we got Counterspell up. So I probably don't want to play anything. And I'll just crack a Clue. Rather than play into their counterspell. Unless they just, like, bolt this or whatever. Yeah, I think we'll just pass. Because this deck isn't going to have a lot of, like, instant speed cantrips to use their mana. So, okay, it is Jeskai. I mean, still probably about the same. There's Leonardo. Does die to a Scred. But I could Interceptor, Leonardo, and then Re-Inspector. Which probably dodges counterspells, except for the Leonardo, which is going to happen at some point anyway. I guess I could save him for a turn where they're tapped out. But that's going to be unlikely to happen for a while. I think we'll just do it. They counterspell. Okay. It is not the same as Ninjutsu. It is casting a spell, so they're able to counter it. Which might mean they don't have a Scred, or they just wanted to use up counterspell. Maybe they have multiple of those. Would the card be good if Rejoinder was an instant? It would be way better, for sure. Part of... What is this? Gain 2 life, activate only if you cast an instant or sorcery this turn. A mana rock that I guess can kind of be a campfire. Really weird. Yeah, the card would be way better. One of the major downsides is that you can't hold up mana. Because holding up mana for a Clue, but you end up using it for a Thraben Charm, or Guardian's Pledge, or a Prismatic Strands is a big part of the deck. So instant speed would make it quite a bit better. It still like is bad if you pick it up before you cast it and stuff like that. But yeah, instant speed would make a huge difference. I think this card's okay maybe in some other decks. I just think this deck, it's not really amazing necessarily. Alright, what do we want to do here? Maybe just Skyfisher and Informant. Because that's the other thing. If they cast like a removal spell on this, I could just cast this instant speed to draw a card, even if this is going to die. And that'd be a big difference. Yeah, let's cast Informant. Would still lose if it died. Yeah, but I think that would be much more playable. Alright, Informant. They could have a Breath Weapon here, which would be unfortunate. I guess I'm going to make that a little bit worse, because I'm going to Skyfisher. I could discard Battle Screech. 2 birds. I think I discard this Informant, actually. Let's play Skyfisher. I'm expecting them to have... Oh, yeah. I forgot this could just tap for a mana, too. Right. I was thinking it was going to be like a Scred versus plus a gain 2, but yeah, it could just be a mana. Alright, we'll counterspell the Skyfisher. Is there a Breath Weapon? They seem pretty eager to play something here. Mole Drifter. With Ephemerate, I assume. Yup. That's unfortunate. White Weenie at my guy, my LGS runs, you're not alone. I thought it was weird until I realized it's white's Galvanic Blast. +2/+2, if you control 3 or more creatures, it gets +4/+4 until end of turn. No, I think that's totally fine, like as a 1 or a 2 of. Like generally, you're trying to go wide with this deck, but like 1 mana to deal 4 is a lot. And it can also literally just make like an Inspector eat a Tolarian Terror, which is crazy, you know? So no, that seems kind of cool. They have 1 mana left. I feel like I have to Thraben Charm this Muldrifter. If they have a Dispel, it's pretty bad, but they're going to Ephemerate it, and I'd like that to not happen. So I'm going to try to make that not happen. All right, that worked. Attack for 5. They have a Bolt for the Informant. So 2. We'll Skyfisher the Inspector. Try to go for value here. I didn't play a land, so I could have picked up the Plains and played our second Inspector. We could have done more damage, but less card advantage, so I think this might be better in this case. I don't know. If they were lower and didn't have a way to gain life every turn, then I would maybe go for the pressure, but does not feel like the game plan here. They have another Muldrifter, Perilous Landscape, and an Augur Bolas. Okay, what do they get? Preordain. I'd probably go for a Battle Screech while they're tapped out. Hope for no Breath Weapon. And maybe should hold back the Inspector in case there is a board wipe, but I don't know. Scred the Skyfisher. Augur whiffs. That's good. They could Preordain to try to find Breath Weapon. Play a land. They're going to just gain 2. Crack a Landscape and another. Then Preordain. Yeah. 2 to the bottom. Not what they wanted. Well, we're going to tap the Muldrifter. I would really love to draw a Guardian's Pledge. Idyllic range, which means I can crack another clue, because otherwise I'm just playing 1-drops. So let's see what we get here. Another Veteran. I could put this on a bird, because it can attack into the Muldrifter. I feel like I probably should put it on an Interceptor, so that it survives a Breath Weapon. We'll just swing with the birds, and I think I'll just play 2 Veterans. If they get a Breath Weapon, then the Veterans are going to die, which is not great, but they come back as flyers. But if they don't, and I can find a Guardian's Pledge, then it's way better to have 2 more creatures on the field. Assuming they don't have a counterspell, so there's a lot of factors there, but still. Play a Mountain. They got an Archaeomancer. They go for a Preordain. Yep, because they are just looking for... I assume they play 1 or 2 Breath Weapons main deck, and they're looking for it. Scry 2 to the top. That's not a good sign. Ephemerate the Archaeomancer. Gets back Counterspell. Yeah, I guess I could just lose to this. I mean, infinite counterspells. Plains is not good. Grange is not good either. Inspector, and this Trove has been actually kind of annoying, as they've probably gained 6 or 9 life, or 6 or 8 life, so they're not dying as quickly as they should. But I mean, this Ephemerate every single turn, I think I'm just going to lose to that, unfortunately. I'm just going to swing with a bunch of birds in the Interceptor. Since they're going to have a Breath Weapon at some point anyway, I think I have to just do this to try to push some damage. They take 6. I'm not going to cast the Skyfisher. They get to Ephemerate, Archaeomancer. Can't do anything if I wanted to. They Ephemerate again. Return another Counterspell. Gain 2. Scred the Interceptor. Prismatic Strands is something I kind of wanted for Breath Weapon, but I don't think it matters at this point. I think we've just lost to Archaeomancer, Ephemerate stuff. Hollow helps against the Breath Weapons. Not that that was our problem here. Journey to Nowhere. I think we just need to get more pump spells. So we didn't really see those. The Interceptors are okay, but I don't think the tapping is enough here. Yeah, let's just do that. Alright. We got... yeah, this one's okay. Early Leonardo is good. Start with an Inspector. In case I want to do Leonardo turn 2, this is the one that I want to pick up, so I want it to be able to attack. And I think I do. So we'll Veteran first, so it hits a little bit harder. So I can dodge the counter spells, dodge Scred for a turn. Lightning Bolt could just get it, but whatever. They pass. Play an Inspector. And we'll just swing. If they don't do anything, I'm just going to hold up Clue. If they kill this, then I'll play an Informant. We'll pass. Another Fjord. There's the Scred. Can't do anything about it. We'll crack a Clue. Bugler first, as I could draw the other Leonardo, which we could use right away. Interceptor instead. Swing for 2. They Scred the Bugler. Could hit for 9 with the Pledge. I mean, they could have a counterspell. I think we Informant to see if they want to counter this. If not, what do we want to discard? I could hold up Guardian's Pledge, so if they go for a Breath Weapon on their turn, my guys don't die. Or I could just play like a Bugler or a Skyfisher, but then if they have a counterspell for that, and then the Breath Weapon doesn't matter. Yeah, I guess we'll get rid of the planes just so that we have the most value. And then play Skyfisher. No, they're definitely going to counter. I think I just crack a clue. I'll do it now because I could get a land. Oh well. Mole Drifter. So I just have lethal with the Guardian's Pledge. Because they can only block one, unless they have a foil or something I'm not thinking of for free. Should be good. Alright, that's how we're supposed to win. Let's try to do that again. Alright, one land is not going to cut it. This one is good enough. Kind of a painful card to put back. Because, like, I don't want to get rid of a planes. I don't really want to get rid of any of our creatures, though. I think it's the Bugler. I keep seeing articles that say Pauper is stuffed with aggro right now, but when I play, I see Dirtle decks and Madness, which I think is burn. You play more than me. What's your take on what people are actually playing a lot of? Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean, yeah, Madness burn. Mono red Madness is not really an aggro deck. Sometimes it's a control deck, sometimes it's a combo deck, but even if you want to think of it as a burn deck, which is totally fine, that's not really aggro, because aggro is usually attacking with creatures and things like that. So that being 10 or 12% of the meta, not aggro deck. I would say it's like, depending on how you think of it, Rakdos Madness could be a aggro deck, because you do have 12 creatures that want to attack, but it's only 4 more Kitchen Imps than mono red as far as attackers, because that deck, both decks run Valdaran Epicure and Sneaky Snacker and stuff like that. So yeah, so you could consider either of those not aggro decks theoretically. So the real aggro decks would be Red Rally, White Weenie. I think of as more of a mid-range deck, but sometimes it's an aggro deck. You can think of it that way. Gruul Monsters is an aggro deck, but I feel like that deck isn't super prevalent at the moment anymore. Black Sack is an aggro deck, but that one's, pretty not the most popular. I'm trying to think I don't really think aggro is overrunning the format at all. I think there's many more mid-range and control decks that are playing. Because mid-range you got Jund and Grixis, which are already a huge swath of decks. Or a huge percentage of the decks that are played, but also any synthesizer list or cryogen list, Esper Affinity, Mardu, Boros, Orzhov, any Skyfisher deck, I guess, is pretty much a mid-range deck. And then control decks, you got Golgari, Food Pest, and Gardens and stuff like that. I don't really know. I think that the meta's pretty diverse. So yeah, I don't think there's necessarily one archetype that's much more prevalent than the others. A super archetype like that. I feel like Elves and Red Madness are in the same weird spot. We're gonna go for this. They could have like a Essence Scatter, but I'm not really expecting that. Lose focus. Fair enough. Same weird spot. They have must-answer creatures that deal damage without attacking. Yeah, so I've long considered Elves much more of a combo deck than anything else. Because you can call it an aggro deck because it's got 40, 1 and 2 drop creatures or whatever, but that's not, they don't attack. Like, you can have 1/2/2, and they can have 8 1/1s, and they're not attacking into you because they're afraid of losing one piece, because they're not an aggro deck, But I will say that a lot of Elves decks in the last recent years have become much more mid-range, playing a lot of Avenging Hunters, Nyxborn Hydras, Saigo Wildlings, and things like that. So I think Elves is kind of mid-range / combo, and Madness is definitely like control / combo or burn, which is kind of its own weird thing. Yeah. What are we doing here? I kind of want to hold up Thraben Charm because I feel like they're going to have an Ephemerate or something, or like Muldrifter Ephemerate. And then we can crack a clue if we need to. So I guess we're just going to like Skyfisher, hold up Charm. It's not the best. 100% about Elves. Yeah, so it's not necessarily the most important thing to perfectly categorize every single deck here in the format, but I think a lot of decks are miscategorized based on like initial impressions. People are just like, oh yeah, this is a deck that, for example, like White Weenie. Oh, it plays a lot of cheap creatures and it attacks pretty fast. It must be an aggro deck. And it's like, well, it plays a lot of 1/2s for 1. Like it's not an aggro, it's not playing 2/2s for 1. It's playing a 1/2 for 1 because it can get me cards later, which is a lot more value-oriented or mid-range. Gruul Monsters, I think, is an aggro deck. It just happens to be an aggro deck that plays 6 drops because it ramps into its fast things. It's trying to attack as quickly as possible, and if it has very little card advantage, and eventually it might just get stopped if you just play a couple removal spells or whatever. I mean, I guess I'll play Inspector because I don't care if they counter that. We hold up Double Clue here. Ben back, subscribing for 8 months in a row. Crazy stuff. They're going to Scred the Skyfisher. Can't do anything about that. Thanks for that, Ben. Yeah, and some decks are just kind of hard to nail down exactly. Like, Mono Blue Terror is like kind of an aggro. Tempo is like, what does tempo even mean? But kind of aggro, but it can also be kind of controlling, and like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff. I just consider that maybe these articles are written by people who play other formats, and so they don't see it the same way as we do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what articles you're referring to, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some articles that were being written by people who have a cursory knowledge of Pauper only, just kind of sometimes play the format. Or, yeah, don't even play the format, but only look at it through, like, the lens of, like, top 8s and challenges and things like that. And also, even if you're someone who plays it like, if you play Pauper once a week at your LGS or whatever, you definitely can say you play Pauper. But if that's the only way you play Pauper and you don't look a lot online, you're not going to have a huge scope of what the online meta is and the meta as a whole, because you could be very well versed in your local meta, but even if there's 32 players or whatever that plays at your local store, you're still not getting anywhere near as wide of a range as online and things like that. But yeah, so back to your original question, stuffed with aggro right now. I don't feel like it's any different right now than it's been for a while. Certainly less aggro than back when we had like Kuldotha in the format, which was obviously a little while ago, but yeah. All right, we'll swing with our Inspectors, get in for one. I'm just going to play another Inspector, and then I'm just going to pass again, because we are developing our board. I assume they just have a bunch of lands and counterspells or stuff like that. I pretty much don't want to tap out of a 3-man Charm at all. Yeah, so I could Charm this, then they counterspell, because this is going to get them 2 cards from the top 6, which is not the most insane thing ever, but it's pretty good. I think it's worth fighting over. If they have double counterspell, they're going to be able to beat that. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, using a second removal spell and just an Augur is kind of weak, but if it works, they're down suddenly to 2 cards and a top deck, which if those last cards are a Mole Drifter and another Ephemerate, or just a Mole Drifter, that's not great for us, but I don't know. I think it's decent. Hollow is good. Lets me play around a Bolt or Breath Weapon. I could play Unicorn and just pump to attack for 6. It's a little more aggressive than I probably should be, seeing as I have a Bugler here. I probably should play Bugler, try to find another creature so that next turn we can... Well, Bugler was good so far today, but that sucks. I could attack and throw one of these away. I don't think I want to do that. We'll crack a Clue, because if I get a land... I could play Inspector. Problem is if they Breath Weapon, I won't have Hollow up, which is really bad. If they Breath Weapon, they have to wipe their Mole Drifter, which isn't the worst thing. I'm gonna take a chance here. In your BattleBox video, you described archetypes like aggro, mid-range, but didn't mention tempo. How are you classifying Fairies, Terror in your mind? Yeah, so similarly to what we're saying, some decks are very hard to say exactly what they are. And also, my BattleBox video was not perfect. When I said aggro mid-range, it was supposed to be both. It could be an aggro / mid-range deck, which is like a white weenie. I would consider that. But it could also just be aggro or mid-range. You could just have 2 aggro decks in your 6-deck battle box, or 2 mid-range decks or whatever. So it could have been any of those. But as far as how would I consider Fairies and Terror, I would consider them both probably in that aggro to mid-range slot, like kind of both. Again, tempo is... What does tempo mean? Tempo usually means an aggro deck with control elements. So it's an aggro deck because you're trying to get out 1 or 2 big creatures, a Delver or a Terror, and then you're trying to keep that alive through control elements like counter spells and bounce spells. Although bounce spells are less controlling, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of how I think of that. So like, I would put either of those probably in that aggro to mid-range slot. So you could put them as your aggro deck, but I do think that if you're building a 6-deck battle box, which is what I was talking about there, you probably want one traditional aggro deck, which means just turning creatures sideways kind of a thing. Red Rally, if you want to put White Weenie there, that's fine. Black Sack, Green Stompy, not that that's very good in the format. Something like that. I should have played this first. I'm a goof. I should have cracked this first because I could have gotten a Grange, which would have gotten a counter on this, and then I could have played this, whatever. Yeah, so I would put them somewhere in there. There's nothing wrong with countering them as your aggro deck or one of your mid-range decks, but I do think since they are kind of outside those, if you do it as your mid-range deck, you probably also want a more traditional mid-range deck, like a Jund or a Grixis or something like that. There's the Trove, later than the last time, which is good. How do you like the Unicorn? I tested it a couple times and feels mid at best. I think Unicorn is integral to having a well-rounded White Weenie deck. What I mean by that is that this deck is... I generally like to play decks that have a good, or at least, not too bad, 45% or whatever, matchup against just about everything. And the way you do that is not just in the deck you choose, but it's also in the exact cards you choose. And Unicorn is, I would say, mid to bad in a lot of matchups. But I think it is the single best card and extremely important in some other matchups. So if you're in a White Weenie mirror match, it's the best thing in the world, because you're almost always going to get into a board stall, and then you're going to need to have some way to punch through. And one Guardian's Pledge often won't do it, or one Leonardo won't do it. You usually need something that every single turn you can pump with, and that's exactly what this is. Right here, I'm trying to figure out if I want to cast it. I probably do, because then I could pump my team, but the problem is they probably just have a counterspell, and I have nothing to take advantage of if they do counterspell it. I could just attack with everything. They block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're just gonna attack here. Gruul Monsters is another one where you're really gonna want a Unicorn, because often that game will turn into a board stall. Ethereal Haze, prevent all damage be dealt by creatures this turn. All damage, so it's basically just fog. Okay, I was not expecting that. Makes me more glad I didn't play the Unicorn, because it would have been a waste, although I guess it would have been fine. Yeah, so Monsters is another one where you're going to get into a board stall, and the +1/+1 is harder in that matchup because their creatures are so much bigger that +1/+1 doesn't automatically make you win that combat, but usually you go much wider than them. You have twice as many creatures as them. Theirs are just bigger, and then you pump, and you can usually get in for lethal that way. Elves is another one. Elves, you need a lot of other interaction from the sideboard, but the Unicorn is really good there too. So they get an Ephemerate. I don't have any way to stop this because we used our 3 Charms earlier, and I guess they can just haze every single turn. Yeah, and we're gonna lose. That's pretty annoying. I guess if we don't get another 3 Charm, we've just lost. Battle Screech doesn't matter. Whatever. So yeah, I will admit I take out Unicorn a lot of matches, but it's there for very specific ones. I guess I should force them to use it. Decks that refuse to lose are strictly more annoying than decks that actually win. I would agree. Oh look, they have a Haze. Yep, now they have a Mystic. They're just gonna do this infinitely, and they're gonna make a bunch of birds. I'd rather not waste 20 more minutes knowing the outcome's gonna be rough. Alright, so we got a 3-2. That's fine. The Interceptors did redeem themselves slightly in the latter matches, having some relevant times when things could be tapped, but I think overall they're not great. If you want to play some, I would say probably just a couple, but I can't say that I was a big fan. I would probably just stick with my Inspectors. Obviously, if this was an upgrade to an Inspector, I would take that, but I think Inspector's already good enough, and I don't consider this an upgrade so far, that I probably would just stick with the classics. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.